Just like when watching that first episode of Kenobi, and this is a meme of the channel as well.
Hmm.
You made a sodding cameo in that first episode.
Oh, 3PO was there. He was at the banquet thing, wasn't he?
Why didn't you tell us about this?
Oh, fuck knows. I don't know, man.
Can I be honest? My heart did sink when we went to. I forgot even Leia's planet.
Alderaan.
But it sank when we went to Alderaan.
You
I was
think
like,
so?
my fears are coming bloody true. Like she was fine. I just thought everything going on there was a bit cringy.
I think she's great.
Yeah, she's fine. But I haven't laughed this loud since Boba and how bad that was. When they were chasing her through the forest, that was egregiously bad. Obviously, they can outrun a little girl. How do we stop them from getting the little girl? Oh, let's just put like funny little obstacles in their way that obviously, if you are a normal human, you'll just be like, I'll step over that. No, they're like, oh, the branch. Oh my God, I'm falling. I can't handle it. Nah, this is dumb.
A lot of people draw attention to the rooftop chase
Really?
on Dio, calling that out as being stupid because it's like, how come Obi-Wan can't keep up with a little girl? You know what I mean? Like,
oh no, I agree with that too. I agree. I actually agree.
I did like the weird dinosaur, man.
Yeah,
She's just
why
a dinosaur.
can you do that, but you can't do the brother right? Come on, they still look awful.
He's fine.
No, he's not, Lauren.
I've come to terms with the Grand Inquisitor as well.
I think I've come to terms with it. I
think
fine.
Rupert is like the design kind of lets him down a bit.
Yes,
It's like it's fine, obviously, up until his head.
Well,
yes.
I've even come to terms with that now. I'm,
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I'm come to terms with it, and I'll accept it, and I'll play with it. I still think they look just like cosplayers rather than just these are meant to be people with professional makeup and prosthetics and all this kind of stuff. It just looks like someone who's at Comic-Con. It still doesn't look great. And again, I'm not pointing as a big problem. It's not a big problem. It's not taken away from the show for me. I can look past it. The Grand Inquisitor's first scene when he's walking around the cafe, I thought was a pretty cool scene, even though he sounded a bit funky. But yeah, it was a really cool scene.
I think the little girl who played Leia, one of the best child actors I've ever seen in anything.
Oh,
she was spectacular. She was just, honest to God, one of my favorite things about this show, honestly. I never had any problems with any of her scenes. I think she brought just the youthful optimism that would be in a child, but also shades of the leader that Leia will develop into, and the independence and the strong will and the sass. Loved it. She was brilliant. On the topic of the third sister, Reva Savanda, played by Moses Ingram, she's really good. She's really, really good. It's interesting having a villainous sort of character be a point of view perspective for the audience, whilst also being quite sympathetic in a way. It's a very fascinating story about how she starts off as a youngling, witnesses the horrific event that is Order 66 and Operation Nightfall, and her idea about, okay, I can infiltrate the Empire because I want to get back at Vader. I want to get as close to the top as I possibly can. So I'm in a power position where I can get him without him noticing. That's a cool idea. That's really, really cool. I like it a lot. And Moses plays her character with such conviction and such trauma as well, aided by the flashbacks that we have to Anakin storming the temple. It allows you to really get inside her head, really understand her motivation, and thus she's a very sympathetic being, not entirely evil. And that's the point of her. She's not entirely evil. And I like how her pureness of the pureness of darkness inside her is constantly challenged, not just by Obi-Wan, but by her colleagues as well, by the Inquisitors, by Vader. I love it, and I am certainly down for seeing more of her character.
I like Reva, but I don't get people's obsession with her, if there is such a thing as an obsession with her. We know her story. She endures Order 66, becomes an Inquisitor to try and kill Vader. That's all she is. There isn't much more to her than that. But I think Reva's a very good character within the show.
Just by the second episode, you know she's ambitious. She
Yeah.
clearly wants something specific, and like she has. And again, that's like a Sith trait, isn't it? They want power. They want status and station. Is Reva getting her own thing? Is she getting a spin-off?
I've heard
Don't think
things
so.
about that. I
Or a
don't.
solo thing, maybe.
I've
she
I've
is.
basically just seen a few posts on Twitter.
That's all I've seen. So pinch of salt, but
Okay, all right, fair, fine. I don't
don't take
I don't
don't
feel
take
like she
that as
needs
gospel.
it.
Don't
Yeah, of
ask.
course.
Don't ask for source.
No, I'm just literally taking your words. I don't really care.
But, like-
I personally
I was
feel
talking
like
to
she
a lot.
doesn't need one. I'm happy with just her being in this.
Well, to be
Yeah.
fair as well, like I like Reva a lot. I think Moses Ingram is doing a great
Yeah.
job.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
And
I
like if
I don't get the argument of her not being a threatening presence, to be honest.
well she is, I think she is. Definitely.
Hmm.
If your reaction to her is well she's bad and I don't like her and I want her to lose, then she's doing her job.
Yeah,
Like,
but
if
I think
you're seeing
but
the villain
I
on
don't even get
screen-
that. Like, she's great.
I think that each of the episodes is actually supposed to parallel the original 6 Star Wars films.
My brother said the same thing, bro.
And to be fair, I think it's valid because
But just from me here,
yeah.
I only see episode 3.
Okay, well, just to give you an abridged version of what I tried to explain to Lawrence earlier.
Mhm.
Episode 1, Obi-Wan is established as being completely reduced from the master he once was. Like, he is practically helpless, almost. And the moment where he's trying to reach out to Qui-Gon kind of seals the deal, as he's almost, like, reverted back to, like, being a Padawan, almost.
Okay.
Then you've also got the theme of, like, the call to adventure, yada yada, and getting off of Tatooine, and these are all things that tie back into the Phantom Menace.
Mhm.
Episode 2 is probably the flimsiest example by my own history,
Yes.
because like it's most like the only parallels to Attack of the Clones that you can
There
really
is a clone in it.
yeah, or is the whole kind of underworld aesthetic, which only really goes into like Act 1
Sure.
of Attack of the Clones, and then being chased by all the bounty hunters. Episode 3, obviously, High Ground didn't save him this time. And episode 4, which is probably the most abundant example, is the Fortress Inquisitoris is essentially a big
Death
parallel
Star.
Death Star. Because
Okay.
Obi-Wan going after Leia,
Okay.
they even escape just as one of their allies dies.
Okay.
I think that Vader getting their helmet and the face plate or something like that, and Obi-Wan actually seeing Vader face to face would actually make a really good episode 5 parallel.
How long after? Right, Lawrence, here we go. Big brain fan wiki hat on.
Okay.
Canonically, how long after the purge in episode 3 are the Inquisitorius set up and ready to go?
Very soon after.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Grand Inquisitor defected from the Coruscant Guard prior to Order 66.
Yeah, like the Temple Guard, he'd been swayed beforehand, and it's theorized that the reason you don't see those guys in Revenge of the Sith is because he's already bumped them off to make way for Vader and the 501st to come in without issue.
Because to be fair, if the temple guards was still at the temple, there'd be significantly more resistance.
Yeah. The idea that the Grand Inquisitor killed all the temple guards, I actually kind of like.
Makes sense.
When Vader first meets the Grand Inquisitor in the Jedi Archives, immediately after that confrontation, Sidious takes both of them to the works, and there, most of the Inquisitors are already set up, training with one another. So it's very shortly after the establishment of the Empire that they're ready to go.
You know the holocron heist in Season 2 of Clone Wars?
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be implied to have been part of the Inquisitor program.
Oh, absolutely, they say it in Rebels.
Because Ahsoka references a bounty hunter who stole a list of kids.
Yeah. Sidious goes, I foresee an army of Force-sensitive spies in my organization. But here's the thing, the writers have been very deliberate of taking the canon into consideration, and how much there's an army of people behind the scenes to make sure that everything lines up.
They could have used that with a few other projects.
They could have Rise of Skywalker.
I mean, like Yoda's lightsaber in Mando. No, not Mando. Book of Boba Fett. Sorry.
No, you were right. You were right the first time, Dan.
Yoda's lightsaber, and to a more forgiving extent, Depa Billab's death.
I do love how fifth brother is again as useless as he was in Rebels.
Consistency.
It is weird though. It's another thing I've been molding about with this show is, where are the Inquisitors? Why have them in the show? Who's Lizard? What's his brother title?
Fifth brother.
Fifth brother. Why have him in the show if every scene he's basically there just to be like,
Why is he's there to be? He's there to be the angry older brother who loves to dob his little sister into dad.
The Jedi Purge is still kind of going on, so it perfectly stands to reason that
they're doing other things.
Inquisitors are off hunting other stray Jedi. Hell, the fifth brother could be tracking down Quinlan Voss for all we know.
But again, the episode where they're on the Fortress Inquisitorius, is the fifth brother and second sister, that's the other girl, isn't it?
No, that's fourth.
Fourth sister, sorry. Are they on the fortress?
Presumably so, yes. But
then I almost question myself again. The entire station is on red alert. You know where I'm going.
How come they didn't sense him?
Not even that. Where the fuck are they? If I heard, there's a Jedi, I'm sure in my fucking temple breaking out a prisoner, I am gonna go find him too. I felt like it would have been good if he could have been in that scene, at least one of the Inquisitors where he breaks the glass and pulls it that way. I would be totally cool with it. Because then again, it removes them, they're there, it shows that they're in pursuit of Obi-Wan as well. But it just feels like they're too vacant. They're just like,
But bear in mind, this isn't a waterproof solution, but it's also an episode. It's also a New Hope situation where Reva explicitly lets them go.
I remember saying this to you guys when they said Hayden's gonna come back. I wasn't all that hyped because there's not much he can do.
People had become pessimistic and kind of lost hope as to whether he was going to appear as Anakin, and it was just so delightful.
Liam's also a big hairy liar as well, because he said, I'll only come back to Star Wars to do film, not TV. He's appearing in Tales of the Jedi as Qui-Gon, and his son is in it as well, who will voice a younger version. So you big hairy liar. But if you're doing that and you don't do this...
I really appreciate the initial dynamic between Obi-Wan and Vader in this series, and the fact that Obi-Wan is horrified and Vader well, let's face it, isn't even trying.
Mm. I like the dramatics of Vader in that scene as well, because he's like turning all of his buttons off and he's shutting down his breathing, and he's just like, okay, I'm going to wait for him to get in position so I can really scare the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And I like Obi-Wan in that initial where they're clashing sabers before they get to the burning, because it's like Obi-Wan is very visibly like having a fucking panic attack.
I'm starting to think that what's going on with Vader's voice, because we've kind of been going a bit back and forth on whether it's an AI voice or not. And what I'm starting to think is that the Vader's voice lines are actually performed by Hayden, but they've put it through an AI algorithm to make it sound like James Earl Jones.
Well,
So it's like them replicating like Luke's voice, but using Hayden's performance as a baseline.
As the base, yeah.
I think that, like, also just in support of this idea, though, like Vader's voice, obviously there's that kind of artificial aspect to it where you can, with the odd syllable, like Lawrence pointed out, that every time he says I, it feels like it was ripped from Empire Strikes Back. But like some of his more emotive moments, like just his kind of pattern of speaking gives me Hayden vibes.
Well, I think someone also pointed out there's certain words that Vader says that sound more like Hayden's, because of obviously Hayden's accent and how he speaks, how he would pronounce words, and there's a difference in the way that James would say them versus Hayden. And so that would lend more credence to the idea that they use Hayden as, and like Hayden says the line, but then they overlay like the re-speecher to give more credit to it sounding different. He's only been Vader for 10 years. So that's not that long compared to how long he's been Vader in the originals.
I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I thought that the lightsaber blades felt short.
Yeah, I kind of felt that too.
Yeah.
In comparison to the prequels, at least, I didn't know whether it was just the angle or if they really were short. Because I think for the production of the Kenobi series, they did go back to like the sticks for it, didn't they? They weren't using the FX sabers.
No, I think they've used the FX things again.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's just
to be fair, if you're using like a worse way of having a lightsaber, but you have good choreography,
yeah,
then that balances that out.
I mean, they are traditionally trained Jedi Knights. They are going to be using the forms and all of that, so it does make sense from a narrative standpoint that their fighting styles would be on point. But still, why couldn't we have this in 2015 and 17 and 19? Why couldn't we have this?
Yeah,
it's very good.
I'm assuming that they use the Force Effect sabers as like, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. The Force Effect sabers are like the really high-end ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I assume that they use the Force Effect sabers for practicality, so that there's essentially less work to do with the visual effects.
They use it for the lighting.
I just wonder, would it be so hard just to like make a larger, less kid-friendly variant of the Force Effects lightsaber for the purpose of filming these scenes?
Well, I mean, it's not literally the Force Effects lightsabers that they use, but I just call them the FX lightsabers because that's the closest comparison. But it's not. They don't actually use the toys.
Oh, thank God.
No, they've never used the toys because those things would break in half if you try and fight like they're doing the films and the TV with them. But I call them VFX because they light up in the way that VFX ones do. They're more like Saberforge ones, which are built to withstand the bish bash bosh and all of that.
Okay, fair enough.
And then, of course, they are still rotoscoped because the way blades light up isn't reflective of what we see on screen. a red lightsaber especially needs scope.
Yeah, the choreography in the sparring scene is great. Like, that scene is excellent. Seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan again, and as Dan said, it's sort of like it's pre-Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, it is.
Because he's still got his hand.
Yep.
And he's still got the hair's like the immediate giveaway.
Oh, the hair. Obi-Wan's mullet. Oh, I love the mullet. Even like I like the choreography with the Reaver versus Vader. Like, that's excellent, because for the most part it's Vader like dodging and like.
Oh yeah, like
the only bit that doesn't work for me with that is that when they go saber to saber, she decides to do these really low on the ground attacks, and I think the choreography doesn't work there.
But overall, that sequence is still really good.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Especially just before they go saber to saber, when she's doing the helicopter thing and he slows it down.
Yeah, and he just
that's cool.
Like he is. If there's one thing they have absolutely nailed in the series, and they have several things, but like above all, it's just Vader's pure sadism.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. And like her PTSD moment of like history repeating itself.
They fucking showed the kids getting killed. The balls on these guys.
Yeah,
well, in America they did put a censor for it.
You know, I didn't actually see the censor when I watched it.
Because the UK one doesn't.
Wait, hang on. Was the American one censored?
No, not censored. There's a screen before the episode saying that content within this could be distressing.
And obviously everyone was right about Reaver being one of those younglings from the opener, because it's kind of obvious.
I will say, because I've been molding on this episode, I must admit a bit. Like, as a Star Wars fan, it's great. But if I remove the Star Wars fan from it, I think the show, since episode 5, is beginning to show some problems for me.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, this show isn't really intended for people who... I mean, let's face it, you're...
Well, that's not true, though. Like, that's ridiculous to say that you can't poke holes in something because it's not intended for you. Of course you can. And this show's made for anyone anyway. It's on Disney+. I think Disney learned from Boba that slow pacing is shit for a show. This show is too fast. It's too quick in pacing. I feel like think about each episode. Yeah, it's moving the story along. It's a super focused show, but it's too focused in that I personally, I feel like I'm not getting moments of levity, moments to for Ewan to feel something, to understand what is actually going on right now. And I don't know if that can be fixed by making the episodes an hour long or adding more episodes to the season. But I think about it like Ewan has just really not... He's just been reactionary to everything this season besides episode 4 where he came up with a plan. But even think about episode 4. He gets dragged through fire, put in a back tank. 2 minutes later, he wakes up and comes up with a plan to infiltrate the Fortress Inquisitorius.
In response to that, to agree with you and suggest a way that they could have reworked it, is in episode 4, if they'd foregone Leia being taken by the third sister to Fortress Inquisitorius, if we'd cut that out completely and had an episode dedicated to Obi-Wan getting over the fact that he's just crossed paths with Vader again.
Yeah.
I think like a 1-1 episode where we spend time with him and we spend time with Vader and get inside their heads. That would have benefited it a lot more.
I think so, because we've only had one scene where Obi-Wan really comes to terms with Vader being back, and that was literally when he's told by Third Sister. You have one scene of him like, and then basically the entire show forgets about that from then on, and it's like, no, we got to continue moving the story forward. We got to keep moving at breakneck pace. I almost feel like, I know when they announced the 6-episode thing, I was almost a little bit disappointed. I was like, oh, I kind of wanted more. I do wonder if they've kind of undercut themselves with like making it such a short run.
While the storyline with Reva is very compelling, the more investing story for long-term fans is that between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and we want to get inside their heads. There could be an opportunity for a bit more, but again, what we got, really good. So I suppose the ultimate point I'm making is, did the show know how to balance that against the Inquisitor storyline and the Leia storyline? Maybe, maybe not. But for what we got, I think it pulled it off relatively well, if not really well.
But this is just me being nitpicky. I swear episode 5 has some of the weirdest decision making I've ever seen. Like, I don't know why Bail or Oregano is...
Oregano!
I don't know why...
Bail Origami.
Origami, that's a good one as well.
But yeah, you don't know why Bail.
I don't know why he is sending a transmission to what he suspects being a captured Obi-Wan, saying, I'm gonna go to Tatooine. I think Owen needs help.
Because he does telegraph about, because he, as Dan was saying, like,
that's a weird decision making. The other thing, why is Reva taking the piss? Why are you setting up a cannon to blow down a door when you cut it down in 2 seconds?
Fair.
And 3, this one maybe can be explained away, but I would almost put this down to the fast pacing, making it not make sense. Why did Reva send Obi-Wan back into a tunnel with 2 stormtroopers when she had an entire army behind her, knowing that she is going to escape? And before you start, Dan, if it is the idea that she wants him to escape to like work with her plan of trying to kill Vader, that didn't really come across to me in the episode.
I think it was like clear enough, because Reva's ultimate tactic was to backstab Vader, because she's had multiple opportunities to attack Vader in a series so far, but it was the whole point that Obi-Wan pitched for this series was for Reva to take a shot at Vader while he was distracted with him. So
but the entire season doesn't support that. She has been so angry at Obi-Wan, so aggressive at Obi-Wan,
because
that if you're like, oh, now I'm gonna let you go because you kind of won me over with saying I can distract Vader, for me it didn't come across. It just looked like really odd. I know. 1 second. Lawrence is next, so fuck all.
Lawrence, then me, because I want to say
something. I'm becoming the judge in this, cool, because I know we all have opinions, but all it came across to me was bad decision making, and the writers walking themselves into almost a Deus Ex Machina. It's like, we need Obi-Wan back here, but we also need this interaction with Reva. How do we get him back to there? She could send him into a tunnel with 2 stormtroopers, and then he escapes. I'm like, what? Lawrence.
So, to once again think of maybe a better way they could have done it, instead of letting Kenobi go with the 2 stormtroopers, why did she not just keep him there under guard until Vader physically came down, and then attack Vader there and then with Obi-Wan present, with the distraction allowing Obi-Wan to escape?
Okay,
I would love that.
Would be that they're, because of the sheer amount of stormtroopers present at the landing site.
Well, troopers can't see shit through their helmets, so it wouldn't matter.
And they can't aim for crap anyway.
Yeah.
Well, to quote Bradley, Deus Ex Machina.
Legit.
But like
Sex
a couple of points I wanted to say, like within reference to how Reva's like, how do you know he won't suspect it? I think Obi-Wan at that point is just like, I just need to get out of here with Leia, get her home. I just need to leave.
Yeah.
So that's why he just leaves and Reva's just left there by herself. But also, I think
you're overlooking the point, Tony. She literally sent him into a tunnel with the intention, at least of the show, of like, I'm gonna keep him under guard. So I'm gonna send him into the tunnel, lock the doors. They locked behind them.
I think she sends him down through the tunnels to the landing area for Obi-Wan, so that Vader can walk through into that area which is enclosed, and she has a better chance of taking him. Because Vader will sense that Obi-Wan's gone down into this room, and then he's in that position. And with the whole her being angry at Obi-Wan earlier in the series, it's like she wants Obi-Wan because she knows she can use him to either get close to Vader or to maneuver Vader into a position to where she can.
Well, I just want to say, you talk about how she said the tunnel is a more enclosed space for her to take him. Why does she choose to take him in the widest, most open place?
Yeah, I know.
Possibly do it.
And also, she didn't know that Vader would be so obsessed with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan said that in their meeting.
Yeah, true. But again,
I have no idea what her plan was. Again, because the show doesn't explain things. I don't know what her plan is.
From a visual standpoint, you have that moment of, well, she was there, obviously, at the attack on the temple, so she knows that Anakin is Vader because she saw him attack the temple and do all that stuff. But and I guess as well, her attacking Vader in that moment might be a sense of desperation type thing. She's like, I have him here, his back is turned to me, this might be my only chance.
Sure.
Yeah, and
I agree with you. Like, I don't dispute anything with their fight.
And to be fair, I think regardless of the moving parts of the situation, a piece of context that I think you really should take into account is that Reva, and then you can make this excuse for a lot of characters, but I think Reva in this series is very well established as someone who is emotionally unstable, volatile, and will turn things around on a whim if she is provoked. And it's clearly shown that Obi-Wan exploits that.
Maybe you guys can explain this to me, because when me and my brother watched this, I just did not get what any of this implied. Why does Obi-Wan care so much that Reva knows about Luke? What is the story there?
You have to remember that at this period, Tatooine is the most important outpost in the galaxy. Obi-Wan's mission there is the most important thing anywhere. You know, it's the whole thing in Rebels when Maul comes down there. Obi-Wan is so quick to take him out because he cannot risk Luke falling into the Empire's hands. Luke is the one that they want to train as well. He's the one that Obi-Wan wants to train as a Jedi. Yoda has his sights Leia, but Obi-Wan wants to train Luke. Luke is the new hope. He is, in his mind, the chosen one.
Yeah.
So the fact that Obi-Wan has put all of his chips on Luke, you cannot undersell how important he is to everything that's going to happen in the next 10 years.
But also, as Bale says to Obi-Wan in that video message earlier in the series, Leia's just as important as Luke is.
Yeah, he's correct. And, Bale recognised that, Yoda recognised that. But in Obi-Wan's mind, he is so single focused on Luke.
But explain to me, Lance. Her main mission is Vader. Why does she care about Luke? To go there.
Because Obi-Wan screwed her over.
Did she?
My take on it is that she tried to take down Vader and she blew it. So the next best thing she can do is murder his son.
But this is assuming that she knows, which is huge.
Well, she can piece it together.
Can she?
I guess, because
My only issue with it is just that I don't like the idea that more people are now knowing this big secret, because it dilutes the importance of like hiding these two kids.
Yeah.
And if her main goal was to bait out Vader into a weak point so she can kill him, I don't get why she would go to Luke.
I would argue that to do a second series of Kenobi would dilute it more than any finale could.
Well, there's still how many more years till New Hope?
9
years.
I guess there's more years it could do. Again, I'm not saying I want it. I'm spitballing. I guess there's still more years they could do some other story with Obi-Wan.
The thing is, every moment that Obi-Wan stays off of Tatooine without a humongous reason, like the only reason he left Tatooine was because of Leia. Every moment that he stays off of Tatooine, away from protecting Luke, in your words, it dilutes the importance of him being there. So
it was like his torture. You know what I mean? In a weird way, it was to literally just sit there and watch this boy.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, we've already seen what happens when you take a popular character and set the entire series on Tatooine. It doesn't end well.
No, it doesn't.
And I kind of feel like as well, if the entirety of this season, of this series rather, was set on Tatooine, people would have got sick of it.
Oh yeah, I think we all spitballed ideas before the show came out, and we all kind of universally said this show won't be set on Tatooine.
No.
Yeah,
because it would be very dull.
Curious question:
Sure.
Do you guys think that Kenobi would have worked better as a movie than it has the series?
It would have the better budget of a film, so they could get that better choreography, they could get that better set designs.
I don't think choreography would have been affected, especially between Hayden and Ewan, because that was perfectly intact.
Well, some people still poke holes, and I'm fine with it. I know, but some people still don't love the fight.
To be fair,
it still makes me laugh when I see when Kenobi and Vader first meet, and Kenobi just runs off behind a mountain of dirt.
That is funny, but
just to run back into him, and it's like, is this a joke?
I think
to be fair, Vader is kind of like emulating Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees. It's like, no matter how much you run, he can walk, and he'll still catch up to you.
But it's funny that it's these two characters. Any other two characters, I would get it. But it's funny that it's Vader and Obi-Wan, and he's like,
I don't think that's a matter of the budget, though. I think that was purely a creative choice.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think it nails down the dynamic that they were going for perfectly. Can we all just assume that the sequel films probably had more of a budget than the prequels did?
Oh, easily.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So
totally.
I think any shortcomings as far as like the Star Wars isms to say go with the series, it's not a matter of budget but of creative choice and direction.
But in terms of like making this a movie versus a show, I think if you make it a movie, whilst it would be like sort of epic and great in scale, I think with a long form series, you can tell more story.
You can. Like, 2
Yeah.
episodes come close to a full length film anyway. That comes to about an hour and 20 minutes. Well, that's almost a full length film. 3 episodes, you'll probably add to Star Wars film,
Yeah.
if not way over.
Sure.
I think that you could have done the Vader versus Obi-Wan plot beat justice in a film, but they couldn't have in a million years have done the Leia plot beat justice.
No. Realistically, how does that play in a film? Her getting captured, then rescued, then captured again. In a series, that's fair enough because you break that up week to week.
Yeah.
But in a movie, that's like, and in a movie, would you even tell the Leia plot?
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, this is because who knows what Kenobi, a Star Wars story, would have been anyway.
Yeah, it would have been a totally
But-
different story. I think an issue we're doing is that we're putting this show into, and the story it's telling, into a film. It would be a totally different story.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'd be down to see what that film would have looked like. Of course, Vader would be in it, I think, undoubtedly.
Oh yeah.
But I think, in the alternative universe we're living in, where it's a TV show, it's good. It's just it's just got its issues.
Yeah, sure. But it's not entirely bogged down by its issues, like, say, a Bad Batch
No.
or
Oh,
Boba
Bob. No, like, it isn't bogged down. And I am nitpicking in some places. Some places
Sure.
are a bit worse than others. But in like a Star Wars fan, watching this episode, I was like, "Fucking hell, this is incredible!" Like the scene where he pulls down, the starship. I was like, "Bloody hell, is this Starkiller out here?"
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying that. Yeah, mate. And who knew? Oh my God, the Grand Inquisitor survived.
I am so happy we can silence those people, ergo my brother, that's saying they're probably just going to keep him dead. I'm like, no, it's such an egregious breaking of canon to keep him dead.
But what about all the army of clones of Grand Inquisitors? What about...
Your brother then thought he was done, did he?
Oh yeah, 100%. He was like, they're probably just going to keep him out of the show. I was like, but you don't understand.
But hasn't he got 2 stomachs?
Yeah.
That is one thing that I do want to say, and this is me nitpicking, but on a comedic level. I want Star Wars to fucking make up its mind if a stab in the stomach actually kills. Because if it doesn't, I'm pissed off at episode 1.
On that,
Yeah, what happened to my boy Qui-Gon?
Bring him back.
So on that topic, to be fair, the Grand Inquisitor having that line of revenge can be a powerful motivator for survival and all that kind of thing. I think that firmly establishes why a dark side user is more likely to survive than the likes of someone like Qui-Gon.
Because that's how...
It kind of goes back to episode 3, because the only reason Anakin survived getting dismembered and burned was surviving on pure rage.
That's the whole reason, ultimately, that Maul survived as well.
I think it's perfectly on brand, to be fair, for dark side users to be able to survive these injuries at, albeit not always, but often, like, a cost. Because, like, Vader and, oh, God forbid, Maul, like, you could argue that they would have been better off dead.
So I just got the image going through my head of Count Dooku's severed heads.
Oh yeah,
surviving on rage, just his head.
How did she survive Anakin stabbing her?
Like I said, rage is the powerful.
I don't think
he didn't stab her. He didn't. No, guys, calm down.
He didn't. No.
She hid amongst the dead. She never got attacked.
The flashbacks would sort of beg to differ.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
she said she hid amongst the dead.
I know she said that, but as Vader's walking up to her, we continuously flash back, don't we?
I don't think that was her point of view.
I think it was. It's meant to be.
This is getting stupid. No way he cut her down and she survived. She was a Jedi and a kid.
If it wasn't her point of view, whose was it?
It was a camera angle. I don't think it was a POV. It was just a camera angle of like the.
But it's meant to be a POV though. That's how the scene is blocked out. It's meant to be Reva's POV.
No. I've not heard anyone say this. No way.
It's just it's cinematography language, you know. The shots are identical in every single way. Therefore, it is visually implied that the POV is Reva's.
And the way I see that scene, frankly, is that it's like the whole exposition of rage is a powerful motivator to survive. I mean, like, you could interpret that as the fact that the betrayal of Anakin stabbing Reva was the moment she fell to the dark side. The rage of having her family slaughtered. Because that is her ultimate motivator for wanting to kill Vader.
We've ruined the show for Bradley now.
No, this is so... It is a bit stupid, though, because, like, we can't just say someone who is completely untrained in the dark side, hasn't even delved into it, can just now be a bit angry and survive a lightsaber attack. We can forgive Anakin because at least he went and killed a fuck ton of kids and then the Separatists, and, you know, he got the Sith degradation that, you know, he is, I guess, a Sith. She's just a kid.
I'm going to call bullshit there because I think it's well established that the dark side, while training intensifies it, isn't something that you need to train to inherently tap into. Because we have seen multiple examples of Jedi tapping into the dark side to great effectiveness, like Seer Junda in Jedi Fallen Order. It's the quick and easy path. When you give into anger, it makes you more powerful than the patience it takes to master these kind of...
The light side is more about like discipline and training and peace and balance, and like the dark side. Oh my
fucking god!
It's like your emotional state, isn't it?
No, I've literally just watched it now. It actually makes complete sense that she gets stabbed, but I don't like it. But it's just dumbfounded me because I didn't see it. Well, of course I saw it, but I didn't interpret it the first time. But it makes complete sense.
Sure. Okay.
The final episode does a lot to make the show really good because I really didn't like episode 5.
Yeah.
But then episode 6 comes along and it's like near masterpiece of an episode, and it just makes the show, brings it the entire show up in the previous episodes.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a perfect show by any means.
It's a bloody good one, though.
It's a good one, but I don't know if that's just because we're coming off the back of Book of Boba and Bad Batch. I mean, like, if you release this show after you did Mando season 1 and 2, it might not shine as much.
I think that it's getting a lot of hate because it could have been a lot better, but that doesn't take away from how good it actually was. And to be fair, I might not be defending this show as much if it wasn't Ewan McGregor and Aiden Christensen.
But what do you think of the show overall, Lance?
I loved it. I had such a thoroughly fun time with this show, and I really liked the story that it decided to tell.
Yeah.
In terms of episode count, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to say it shouldn't have been longer. I know that the longer something goes on for, the harder it is to span a plot out. And so certain elements of a plot can become quite thin and contrived. I think sometimes the shorter the runtime is, the more focused you can be. Now, that's not to say that the focus was always on point. I don't think it necessarily was. But for what we got, I think it handles itself really respectfully. I think the story it told was very impactful. And I think it was the ideal length. I don't maybe agree with the distribution pattern of it. And maybe this is a big contributing factor for your feelings about it. Debuting 2 episodes in one go and then the third mere days later, meaning that within a week half the season has already come out.
I could see that.
Maybe that's an issue. I can understand why they did it, but at the same time, it speeds up the shows ultimately to the length. Let me rephrase that. Ultimately, it means that the life length of the show is shortened, and therefore that could influence the pacing. Overall, the experience of the show was pretty darn marvelous.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a theoretical question, because it's a question that I didn't find myself asking until I saw people talking about, I guess, Disney Plus shows and Star Wars. Do we think that Star Wars right now is in a weird rut? So we've had 3 shows, all separate, with characters and their relationships with kids. Mando and looking after Baby Yoda. The Bad Batch and looking after Omega.
Yeah.
And now Obi-Wan looking after Leia. And it didn't really dawn on me until I saw people talking about this. And it's not necessarily bothering me, but it is something I'm like, they are repeating a plot device quite a lot right now. I guess they didn't really do it. I'm trying to think anyway. I don't think they really did it with Boba Fett. But Boba Fett's its own fucking alien of a show. But what do we think of that?
I think maybe it's part and parcel of the subject of families, which is the core of Star Wars fundamentally. Sure. The relationship between father and son, brother and sister, mother, son, mother, daughter, whatever. To have stories regarding kids and, say, adoptive families or parental figures is part of a franchise's DNA, fundamentally.
I agree with that. But there is a very deep similarity between the stories that they're trying to tell with these older characters looking after younger characters. Omega is not too dissimilar to Leia, and it feels, whereas Bad Batch were trying to get Omega out of trouble, it feels like Obi-Wan was trying to get Leia out of trouble. I guess, Mando's its own thing. That's just him more trying to take care of the kid. So I agree with you. But it does feel at the same time that they are just exploring the same thing, which is like these kind of disassociated characters trying, being thrown into something that they're not comfortable with, looking after a younger child, and then over time learning to love said child and appreciate what they are and their relationship with each other. Because, Obi-Wan definitely did not want to look after Leia. First episode very much establishes that. And now he's visiting Alderaan like, yo, here's a fucking gun pouch, bro. Oh, it's great to see you, man. All the great adventures. Let's go. Which is basically what Mando has done and Bad Batch has done. I don't know. I agree with you that it's very much the DNA of Star Wars. But I do wonder, like, you guys are repeating a lot, and I guess it's good that Andor is the next show, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and that looks like it's very much not got that story device that's so common right now with Star Wars. There is, at least I can't remember in the trailer, there is no kid that Andor is looking after.
Perhaps there's I don't know, maybe a Disney mandate to have a child appeal character of some kind.
It makes sense. And beyond that, a much more straightforward interpretation is how the formula worked for Mandalorian, so they're just. I think they're taking the approach of don't fix what isn't broken. They have a winning formula.
Sure, I get
why
that.
they're using it repeatedly.
I can agree with that. I can get behind that.
Yeah, not saying that it's necessarily the best plan in the long run.
No, because I think, like, look, listen, every show has its winning formula, but when you milk that, that's when it's like,
yeah,
the death of that show is when they milk that formula.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. But is this something that, when I saw some people talking about this, I was like, oh yeah, that is interesting. But, again, it doesn't take away too much from Obi-Wan for me or Kenobi. But, all in all, it is a very good show. I definitely preferred it more than Book of Boba. I think I did prefer it more than Bad Batch. Mando, I don't know, actually. I think Mando might still be better.
Maybe we should do at some point
A tier list.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A tier list.
I think it could be interesting because it feels like there's enough. Would we include films? Would we just like tier list all of Star Wars?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Oh my god, that'd be sick.
Didn't Kathleen basically say that she said something and then it basically confirmed that Book of Boba Fett was just like Mandalorian DLC? Because it was just like,
That's depressing.
well, because she said that thing about not focusing on trilogies as opposed to doing away with big trilogies in favor of the Disney Plus style narratives that we have now, which is fair. That makes sense. And basically was just like doing stuff about how stories connect, and it just sort of intimated that.
Like you say the Disney Plus narrative, but they're basically just pulling an MCU.
Well, even that, I mean, they're allowed to. They're all owned by Disney, so.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think that Star Wars is better at being in the MCU than the MCU is sometimes, but.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes Star Wars MCU is pretty short. But yeah, for anyone who's watching, Kenobi is very good.
Yes.
Not perfect, but very good of a show.
Yeah, and all the shit you're hearing about it is really more the symptoms of a highly toxic fan base.